In 2016, American companies invested over $1 billion in automated vehicle technologies. And so we were wondering, how can North Carolina best position itself for the future? So our research centered around two questions. We were wondering, one, how are states regulating AVs or automated vehicles? And two, how can North Carolina apply these lessons to its proving ground? North Carolina is one of 10 states across the country to have a federally recognized proving ground. We want to make sure that North Carolina takes as much advantage of that as possible. So what can states do? Only about 25 states have passed some sort of regulation or implemented an executive order that actually regulates automated vehicles. And the federal spheres of regulation and state spheres of regulation when it comes to automated vehicles are pretty distinct. So when it comes to the federal sphere, the federal government is traditionally in charge of things like vehicle performance. They assess vehicle safety. And when it comes to states, states are traditionally in charge of things like vehicle licensing, registration, traffic laws and enforcement, motor vehicle insurance, and liability. We talked to about 10 different departments of transportation for states across the country, states that have implemented some sort of regulation or executive order, and we were able to distill those strategies into about 3 distinct approaches. So in one approach, the laissez-faire approach, this is employed by a state like Arizona or Virginia, states hope to attract industry leaders by regulating automated vehicles as little as possible. They employ the market mechanism to attract business. In the government-led innovation approach, states like Florida invest in the infrastructure necessary for the widespread deployment of automated vehicles. And in the proactive regulation approach, states hope to attract industry leaders by creating regulatory certainty, by regulating for technology that's not even here yet, several years out. And so that leaves us with the question, what should North Carolina's approach be? And Soli is going to talk about that in more detail.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. So I want to point you to 2 pictures. The first picture you see is of a bunch of 18-wheelers flying down the road. And the second picture you see is a map of the proving ground that Sarah mentioned briefly. This is 1 out of 10 federally approved proving grounds, and North Carolina has about 13 miles there represented. So what does trucking have to do with how North Carolina can actually use this test track? Well, we thought that there are different ways that autonomous vehicles and automated vehicles are continuously being tested in all these different areas. But North Carolina really has the opportunity to become a leader in autonomous trucking. We wanted to figure out ways in which we can attract private industry, car makers, trucking technology companies to come and specifically use the North Carolina Proving Ground. And we really decided to point this in a number of research questions that we would then prove to the North Carolina Department of Transportation Turnpike Authority. These are 5 research questions that we ultimately came up with, and I know this is a lot of text, so I want to point out 2 specifically that we thought were digestible for this presentation. The first is V2X communications. V2X basically stands for vehicle to blink. So the blank in this situation would be other autonomous trucks. Autonomous truck platooning, where 2 or more autonomous trucks travel together, kind of like a pack, increases the amount of operational efficiency and reduces the amount of aerodynamic drag that can be experienced. And so this was something that we thought was absolutely critical if platooning was going to be a technologically feasible and economically viable solution. And this can happen here in North Carolina through its infrastructure and proving ground. The second one was traffic studies. How will a group of 18-wheelers moving continuously together down a specific long-haul route affect traffic? Many experts say that this is actually going to decrease congestion, and this is one way that the proving ground can go ahead and see if that is actually true. So with these questions, the Turnpike Authority has a lot to think about and also has a lot to offer to whichever partners it wants to partner with for the rest of the time that the proving ground is available. And so hopefully we will be able to present this to the Department of Transportation and that they will be receptive to these research questions. Thank you so much for your time.